distributed timely. The House Committee substitute for House Bill 1613 increases the opportunity for the woman considering abortion to see her unborn child by ultrasound and to get a picture of the child that she can share with her partner, friends, family during the 72-hour reflection period. What I want to point out is it increases the opportunity. It does not force them to get a copy of it. It doesn't force them to do anything. Also, it's similar to other 72-hour waiting periods already passed by the House with a couple of key changes. In addition to the requirement currently in the law that the woman be offered an opportunity to view the ultrasound as part of the informed consent before an abortion, the substitute would require that she also be offered the opportunity to receive a photographic image of the unborn child. A requirement that is previously passed bill that a woman be offered the opportunity to view an informed consent video produced by the Department of Health and Human Services, which was Representative Linda Black's amendment, has been modified in a couple of ways. First, the viewing of the video is now made optional, and second, a copy of the video or in CD or DV format shall be offered to her free of charge to take with her. The video could then also be shown to her partner, family, friends during this 72-hour waiting period. Currently, giving a choice to receive a photo of her unborn child to take with her can only increase the odds that she will choose not to choose life for her unborn baby. The bonding opportunity shall be made available to women considering abortion, because who would argue against a woman having more information to make her decision? These pictures will go on the fridge and will be pasted in the baby's book. Everybody that actually has had a baby's book before has got any ultrasounds, everybody puts them in the baby book that I have seen and the ones that I've used. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Questions of the sponsor, Representative Munson.
I do have questions, but first of all, and I don't know if this is appropriate time, but I call a point of order with the substitute. It goes beyond the scope of the original bill, so it's not truly a substitute. Look at Article 3, Section 21.
Let's look at the underlying bill.
Titles are different, and while there's some talk in the underlying bill about ultrasound in 72 hours, these are substantially different pieces of legislation.
You know, I looked at the underlying bill, I'm looking at the sub, and materially it looks to be pretty much the same. We're still dealing with 72-hour informed act consent.
If I may, I've talked to research already, and I've asked that very question and see if it is constitutional. They have checked, and they gave me the answer that it was, in fact, constitutional and within the realm.
Why the difference in the title and...
That's a lot of times what you do when you do a House Committee substitute. You can change some things like that. But it has the basic philosophy, the basic thought, and the basic theme of the underlying bill originally.
So you're still dealing with informed consent, still changing the waiting. The waiting period now is 24 hours in statute.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes.
You're proposing to extend it to 72, and just thumbing through the substitute, I notice on page 4 you've got the woman shall be provided the opportunity to receive an ultrasound photograph or print of the unborn child that accurately portrays to the extent feasible the head, torso, and limbs of the unborn child at present viewable. Is that new language from what was in the underlying bill?
It's a little bit of new language, but not very much. All of that was actually entailed in the original bill as well.
Yeah, because just looking at the vast majority of the substitute seems to encompass the language in the underlying bill. I noticed on page 11, you've got a few lines, well, in half of 12. You're just adding some language to the underlying language that was in the underlying bill, is that correct?
Yeah, basically, it's just staying with the 24 to 72 hours, but it's the basic concept of the basic bill.
All right, very good. All right, well,
It does open the chapter, but we're dealing with different sections, so.
well, it's in the same chapter though, I think.
Yeah, that's the main thing with the constitutional part of it.
Yeah. Did you have any other lines or questions or comments? or Representative?
I did. So, Representative, it says the woman shall be provided the opportunity to receive an ultrasound, photograph, or print, and I'll stop there because the rest is just inflammatory language. But does a woman not have the opportunity to have that at this point? Are you concerned that they don't if they request that?
Well, basically what we're trying to do, the main concept here, we're looking from instead of the 24 hours to the 72 hours. And it's been shown unconstitutional that they're required to look at it. And this just gives them the opportunity to look at it, gives them the opportunity to get a DVD, and get the opportunity to get the printout of the ultrasound.
Well, and again, my question is, it does say they shall. Do you have reason to believe they do not have the opportunity at this point? Is this necessary that we put this in statute, something
Well,
probably taking place at any time?
Yeah, I
a
think
woman
it
requests
is that
this?
it's critical to put it in statute, so we put it in there so that they have to go by the guidelines, to give them the opportunity to do this.
Do you have any evidence that if a woman goes in at this time and they request an ultrasound, that they're not being allowed to have a copy of an ultrasound?
Not offhand, no.
So we're just, again, this is inflammatory. And I might add to your comment about that anytime a woman has an ultrasound, those pictures go up on the fridge. I can tell you from personal experience, when I had my miscarriage, my ultrasound didn't go up on the fridge. So I think for you to sit there and suggest to women that those pictures always go on the fridge, I think it's completely
I was
unfair.
saying from what I've seen. in my
But you
experience.
probably haven't seen a lot. I mean, there are probably circumstances and situations that women find themselves in that you're not aware of and yet they haven't been a part of your experience. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, just to show you God has a sense of humor though, I had 4 sisters growing up, so I was involved in a lot of things. Even last week I had to be involved with one of my sisters. Got married and had 3 daughters, so the process of me being able to see that is probably higher than a regular individual.
So has your experience been that any of your sisters or family members, they've had to undergo a pregnancy where perhaps they knew that child was not going to be viable and that was a choice they had to make to protect perhaps their health, and it was a decision that they had the opportunity to make? Is that part of your experience?
That's not an option. My sisters would not consider an abortion.
Did your sisters face, or people, does your experience have that you had women that you had experience with, that they had to face pregnancy where the child might not be viable? I'm not asking you whether they chose to have an abortion or not. Is that
In my
part of your experience?
I have not seen that.
Okay.
Right.
So there are probably women that
Except
have-
with maybe miscarriages.
So there are probably women outside of your scope of experience that
Oh,
have other
definitely.
extenuating circumstances that perhaps you might not be able to relate to because it's not been part of your experience.
That's an accurate statement.
To go to the 72 hours, do you not trust your sisters to make good decisions for themselves?
Well, yesterday, I went over to the car lot out over here. I was just gonna get a key made for the vehicle. And I was looking around because I'm considering maybe buying a new vehicle. Even when I buy a new vehicle, this is my experience again, I don't go right in there and say, I want to buy that vehicle, and then you leave with it. I have to look at it, get information about it, maybe drive it, a lot of different things, check prices. There's a lot of things that I do putting into a decision, whether that's a car, whether that's a house, whether that's any major decision that I put in my life, even carpeting. I was just considering getting some carpeting or wood in my house. And that process probably took, a month, because just seeing all the aspects of it. Because I was faced with the decision that I didn't have very much information that I knew about. So I wanted to be as informed as possible. And that's what this bill is being having them give as much information as possible.
You probably did a little bit of research before you went to that car lot too, right? You probably have some experience that you took in. And
Well, I didn't because I was just gonna get a key mate because I blocked myself out of my car.
I doubt that there's many women that, immediately upon finding that pregnancy test is positive, that they rush to seek that abortion immediately. I mean, my folks that I know that have gone through this, and my guess would be that most of them take some time to figure that out. I had knee surgery a few years ago, and I did the research. Now, by the time I went to my surgeon and said, okay, let's do this, I had done my research, I had my questions answered. So to have made me wait an additional 72 hours after my physician that I chose, my physician that I trusted, the physician that I was fully and completely capable of selecting on my own and make an informed decision, we didn't have to wait an additional 72 hours for me to make up my mind again. So in my mind, this is just additional impediments, and even some of your presentation or bill is highly inflammatory and, in my opinion, disrespectful to women. So thank you, Representative.
Thank you, I think, too.
Go ahead, you want to respond to that?
No, I mean, just, go ahead.
Inquire, please. Before I inquire, let me just start by saying it's a little bit insulting to compare a woman's decision about her life to getting a key made for your car or buying a new car. So I just want to start from that premise that
Fair
the
enough.
analogy you're using is
Well, that's the analogy that I could draw from, immediately.
right, which interestingly begs the question, should you be the person who is offering this kind of legislation about how women take care
You're
of their health
welcome
and
to
their lives?
co-sign with it if you want to.
If I thought it was good legislation, I absolutely would co-sign. I don't think it's good legislation, so I absolutely will not. I think that nobody's going to put into statute that before you go to buy a car, you're going to need to investigate different cars in certain ways, and I don't believe anybody should put in statute how much information a woman needs to have based on your experiences and what you believe before she decides about a decision that will impact herself and her family. So I find it insulting, frankly.
So you're against people having more information to make a life.
I'm against you deciding what information a person has before she makes a
This is not me
decision.
deciding. That's what we're doing here, having an open forum. And if it goes further, have a lot of people
Well,
talk on both sides of it.
Right, but in essence, we are deciding because we're saying we're going to make sure that you know that you can look at an ultrasound. That's what you're.
It just gives you the opportunity, is not requiring or forcing.
Right, but what I'm telling you is that women making these decisions are informed women. They're women who will choose to utilize whatever information in their lives they need to decide about what's best for their health, for the health of their families. So, I just think this is presumptuous. I think it is degrading of women. I think it's saying they're not going to use their time well or a decision. Nobody's going to, pregnant or not, going to walk by a clinic that is willing to perform an abortion and say, gosh, I hadn't thought about that before. Let me go in and see what they might offer me in terms of whether I continue or terminate this pregnancy. So the fact that you're calling for this 72-hour waiting period, that's frankly a burden, as my colleague stated, a burden for women. Think about women who have wrestled with this decision, made a decision, gone to this clinic, and then bad enough that they have to wait 24 hours. Now you're going to make them wait 72 hours. These are people who may have come in from out of town. These are working people. These are people who need to be able to pay for a place to either stay where the abortion may be performed or drive back home, however many hundreds of miles that is,
Just
and go back
waiting
again.
3 days to end the life or not, I mean, you should.
Why 3 days to decide whether you're going to carry a pregnancy to term? Why
Well,
not 2? Why not?
This is a life, you're ending a life.
Well, again,
ending a
you and
life.
I look at that, there are different values around when the beginning of life is, and I think we could
Conception.
debate that. Well, again, you have an opinion, and maybe it's based on your religion. Other people have different ideas and opinions, but for you to impose your view on every woman who is wrestling with this
This is
decision.
not my view. I've got a lot of input on there, and that's what we're talking about.
I'm sure that you do. There are a lot of people who view the world the way you do. There are also many, many people who view the world differently than you do. And this does not respect those differences of ideas and opinions. My question to you, however, is this. I'm a little bit curious as to why your underlying bill was not the bill you carried forward. Tell me about the decision-making process to move from the original bill to this House committee substitute.
There were some other bills that had some debate on the floor and wanted to move a little bit different direction. That's it in a nutshell. You can't read any more into it than that. I mean, that's why it was.
What things
that way.
does the substitute have in it or not have in it that the underlying bill had or did not have?
Well, do you have the copy of this?
I do. I'm just asking you to say it out loud.
Basically
Okay.
on page 4. If you
On
read
page
those-
4 of the new legislation?
Of the House Committee substitute, that's what we're talking about now.
Right.
Is the House Committee substitute. I don't have the copy of the original bill here. And you see on page 4.
I'm happy to provide you one
which
if that's
the,
helpful. There we go. Thank
Which
you.
the chairman read earlier. The woman shall be provided an opportunity to receive an ultrasound, photograph, or print of the unborn child, and he accurately portrays the extreme feasibility of the head, the torso, the limbs of the unborn child, if present and viewable.
So that is new language? That was the language that was not in the underlying bill?
Yes.
And in the underlying bill, I believe that the underlying bill had more extensive provisions than that. Is that true?
Substantially,
And
yeah.
can I ask you again, what was your rationale for moving from the underlying bill to this substitute?
This was more model legislation, and there's some other debates that have already happened on that. So what we wanted to do, what I want to do is move it further for the 72 hours.
Okay,
The
and when you say
basic
model
difference-
legislation,
The
tell me-
basic difference is taking it from the 24 to the 72 and giving more information. That's it in a nutshell.
Okay, and a couple questions. So, when you said model legislation, tell me what you mean by that?
That's the same thing that you look at in model legislation. There are some different legislations that are out there of model things that maybe other states have done, or maybe some organization have had. So it was my
So you just
part of
looked
the-
at legislation that is either moving or has passed elsewhere and brought that to
Yeah,
Missouri?
either other states or,
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you again. Your underlying premise of imposing this restriction, putting this hurdle in the way of a woman who's making a very important, tough decision, which I believe she has likely thought through, talked about, and researched, for us to impose a particular
yeah,
perspective.
two
and
more
point of
days
view.
would be
Well,
a
again,
detriment.
2 more days, 4 more days, 12
This is a
more.
life-changing thing for somebody.
Absolutely,
And to
absolutely,
add
and I would be
2 more
really
days
surprised
on
if
there
even without the
would-
legislature
I don't think
stepping
it's a
in
bad thing to do.
statute to put into place these kinds of burdens. I believe that women are making decisions based upon information, knowledge, and conversation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, we're going to take a brief officials timeout. We have a quorum here now, so Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairperson Moore?
Here.
Mr. Moore? Representatives Monticello? Here. Bratton? Gannon? Here. Carr? Koenig? Meredith? Here. Neely?
Here.
Newman? Here. Remley?
Here.
Shute? Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Further questions of the sponsor, Representative Newman.
To inquire, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Representative. I've got several questions too, but to kind of reiterate what my colleagues have pointed out, just so that we're all clear, the House Committee substitute is dealing with completely different sections, correct? Than what your underlying bill was
We're opening the
addressed?
same chapter.
Right, but I'm just talking about the actual section of the bill. Your underlying bill was dealing with section 188.090, which is not in the substitute, correct? This one is dealing with sections 188.127 and 1039, correct?
I don't know
We're
the
dealing
number.
with basically a different bill. There's
Well,
nothing- is there
usually when you do
anything-
House Committee substitutes, you change the bills to
I
what you
understand how
want to do.
procedure works, but what I'm asking you, is there anything that's in your original bill that what you filed that's now in the substitute?
Yes, and what we're here to talk about is the House Committee substitute, not the
I
original bill.
understand procedure, Representative, but I'm asking you, is there anything that's in the substitute that deals with 188.090?
We're talking about the change of the time from the 24 to the 72.
Well, 'cause I'm not finding that actual section in here, but the other thing I want to mention, and again, my colleagues have touched on this, is your original premise that a woman who is receiving any type of care with her pregnancy, regardless of what decisions are involved, is somehow similar to purchasing a key for an automobile, or even, as
If
you
you're
mentioned,
listening to my
purchasing
explanation,
carpeting.
it had nothing to do that. Said I was there in making a decision, not making a life-changing decision, but making a decision to buy a car. I put research in there to find out what to do.
Do
and it
you
usually takes
believe
me
that
time.
buying a car is any way related to any type of pregnancy decision?
Did I say that?
That's what I'm asking you.
I did not say that. I'm saying
Merchandising.
my decision to accomplish something is I get input in it. And that's what this bill does, is give more information
So
for
you're
people to make a
assuming that
decision.
women who are under care of,
I'm assuming
for their
nothing.
pregnancy need additional information that they're not already receiving?
I'm just saying they have the opportunity, increases the opportunity. If you
But-
want to know what this bill does, increases the opportunity.
Well, I'm going back to your original statement because you began your testimony by talking about purchasing decisions in terms of, buying a
Well,
car,
since
buying a key,
I
buying
cannot have an
carpeting.
abortion or
Is
any
that
aspect
equating
of
to
that,
a
that
medical
would be something
decision?
that I would do.
Are you equating that with a medical decision?
No.
That was your analogy, and then that was extremely
Well, I
offensive
could
to
do
every
something about
single
my, I've
woman
had my
in this
knees
hearing room,
done, and I've
Representative.
had my shoulders done, so I could do that.
Representative, I'd like to speak. This is my inquiry of you. Your statement was extremely offensive, regardless of what side of anyone's decision would be in a medical situation with their pregnancy. Your comments were extremely offensive to every single woman sitting in here, whether they're pregnant, whether they're not, whether they are making any type of decisions with their pregnancy. I wanted to point that out because that kind of attitude is demeaning to women, regardless of what they decide
That
to
was not the
do.
intention.
But I wanted to point that out. That was really
Well, I apologize
offensive.
for that if that's.
Because there's no woman with any kind of medical decision they have to face, whether it be pregnancy, whether it be cancer, whether it be anything, that they're going to relate that to purchasing a car or purchasing carpeting. And you're demeaning a woman's intelligence with their medical doctor.
That was not my
That is
intent.
extremely offensive, regardless of what those decisions are have to be made. So what you're actually saying with this bill is they're not receiving enough information already with their physician. Is that what this bill is saying?
It would be ending a life, so I want to give people the
So,
opportunity
they're-
to increase their opportunity.
So
to
you're
get
also
some more
saying that their
information.
physician is inaccurate? Their physician is not providing the information already?
Didn't say that.
But is that what you're implying? Because
I'm not
they need
implying or
additional.
saying that.
uh,
I'm just saying this is a life-ending decision. You should think about it.
And you
Pure
do
and
not
simple.
believe that a woman deciding, which is their legal choice, it's their legal choice, and you believe that a woman needs this House Committee substitute, along with their information they're already receiving from their physician to make that decision according to your values?
The reason why we have an open forum to talk about it is to bring bills up and to get pros and cons of the bill to talk about. We have over 2,300 bills that have been brought up this year. Not all of them make it out of committee. But this is the process that we vet things through, to have people say yes or no, or to ask people questions, bring experts in the area to say, then you question those people. That's the process we're going through now, and that's the process.
So who would be the experts in dealing with a woman's pregnancy? Who would be the experts that would know the most of this
Doctor,
issue?
their
Who would be that
physician-
expert?
Their physician, I presume, or they would be.
I would presume the physician also, right? We're talking about medical care.
If you want to call abortion medical care, yes.
Dealing with a pregnancy is under medical care. Would they be the expert in this situation?
Yes.
So I don't see a lot of physicians on, or obstetricians, gynecologists on this committee. I don't see a lot in the audience. So therefore, if you're saying that this is the forum for medical, or for the experts to weigh in on a woman's medical care, that's not.
There's a lot of people out there that are experienced in different avenues of either side of the issue that are going to bring information.
Are those
out.
experts? Are they experts?
Yes,
In this situation,
yes.
in terms of a woman's medical care?
Of the disposition of what we're talking about.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on that one, because I believe that
Fair enough.
if we're also going to mandate, we're going to mandate what a physician must do during medical procedures, during medical care, and none of us have that background.
The only thing this is, let me make sure, this is increasing the opportunity for somebody to get information.
Well,
That's
I
all
want to
it's
ask you
doing.
about that. I'm glad you brought that statement up. Can you explain exactly what does providing the woman now with the opportunity to view, exactly, what does that mean? What would that
Is
physician
this a
must
trick question?
do?
It gives them the opportunity to view.
And it says shall provide them. Is that the same thing as saying that they must view?
Gives them the opportunity. You have an opportunity to sit in that chair or another chair or another chair. Doesn't say you have to do it, gives them, increases the opportunity.
So what must the physician do with your bill language?
It takes it from 24 hours to 72
I'm
hours.
asking about the physician. What must the physician do with your bill language?
Take it from 24-hour waiting to 72-hour
That's what the
waiting.
physician has to do. The physician has nothing to do
What
with
I'm
waiting.
talking about is the information that's in my bill.
My
that's
question,
where I-
Representative, and I will ask other witnesses since you're
Okay.
unable to answer. But what I am reading in this statement is that the physician shall provide the woman with the opportunity to view, which I read that as the physician shall provide the woman with the ultrasound, with all of these
No, it
specifications.
didn't say that at all. You read it there.
So what must
It
the
gives them the
physician do
opportunity-
with
gives them
your
the
bill language?
opportunity
What
to
is the
view it.
physician mandated to do with your bill language?
It's increased the opportunity for a woman to consider the abortion, to see some other information. They don't have to.
Well, we would have to leave that up to an attorney to actually explain to us what shall provide.
The woman shall
what
be
the-
provided the opportunity to receive.
So I'm asking you what, again, last time,
The woman shall provide the opportunity to receive.
what in the physician's office, what must the physician do with this?
Provide them the opportunity
And how
to
do you
see.
provide an opportunity?
Give them the opportunity to do that. You
So-
can't hold their eyes open and have them look at it. I mean, you can say, here's the ultrasound. If they give them the opportunity, doesn't mean that they have to do it.
So does the physician do that now?
I can't answer that.
Thank you, Representative.
Representative Meredith, did you have inquiry? All right, proceed.
I know that you personally are bringing this bill forward and asking for the 72 hours because you feel that this is right. And you
Yes.
feel that this gives women an opportunity to have more time to think. And I know that this is, a very strong belief for you personally. And I don't want to, belittle that, because that's what you believe, and you have every right to believe that. However, I have a couple questions. How many abortion providers do we have in the state?
No idea.
We have one. It's in St. Louis. And if you start putting the time together, if you have somebody who lives a little bit north of St. Joe or a little bit south of Springfield, which I drove to for a committee meeting last summer, I drove to each place. It took me 5.5 hours to get north of St. Joe. It also took me 5.5 hours from St. Louis to get south of Springfield. So that's 11 hours on the road. If you have a job and you have to leave that job to go to see the provider, you know you're pregnant, you've known for a little bit now. It's not something that, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant, I need to go see the doc. If that doc is in St. Louis and it's 5.5 hours away, it's gonna take you some time to get there. So you're gonna drive 11 hours to go see this physician. And then, well, what are you gonna do? You gonna pay for a hotel for 3 days? Or are you gonna, what are you gonna